Okay, well then, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the South African Oracle User Group for having us here today. My name is Chelsea, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Circular Edge. I'm excited to be here with Tonio Thomas to share 5 of our new and flagship product innovations to help you eliminate JDE batch job challenges, manage your E1 on the go, achieve self-service password reset, automate package builds, and move forward with RPA. So before I hand it over to Tonio to demonstrate these solutions, let me first share a little about CE. Circular Edge was founded over 17 years ago, and we've grown our practice to more than 160 JDE and Oracle CX functional and technical experts, which we make available to customers all over the world via Smart Help. Our customers are able to tap into these skills and resources in virtually any model they want for things like managed services, gap analysis, rollouts, implementations, lift and shift migrations, StaffOg Plus, project and resource supplementation, skills enablement, or even for on-call support with just troubleshooting and guidance. This unique approach towards taking care of customers was recognized by Oracle JDE in both 2017 and 2019, when CE was selected as the winner of their annual Partner Excellence Awards for continuously delivering and showcasing customer success stories across the JDE ecosystem. To know Circular Edge is also to know innovation. Over the years, while working with all our customers, we've run into many of the same challenges you've all had and thought there had to be a better way. And so we've developed many solutions to help eliminate these challenges, which brings us to today's session. So now I am happy to introduce Tonio Thomas, Senior Manager of Technology Services.
Great, thank you so much, Chelsea. Good afternoon, everyone. As Chelsea mentioned, we're going to go through a couple of different solutions today centered around batch job scheduling, user password management, package build automation, so on and so forth. The primary focus of our session today is going to be centered around the Smart Scheduler solution, which is about addressing the challenges related to scheduling batch jobs in JD Edwards. And then we'll also leave a little bit of time to go over some of the other products that we mentioned. So the way this product came into being is because of the limitations of the standard JD scheduler. So I'm not sure how many of you are using the standard JD scheduler today, but if you are, I'm sure all of these limitations that we've listed here are probably all too familiar for you. So I don't need to kind of go into each one of these, but this and some more. Obviously, there were several challenges with using the standard JD scheduler, which we faced ourselves while we supported our customers through our managed services practice and just implementations, upgrades, just as through our interactions with JD customers, supporting them over the years. We've kind of faced these same limitations with the JD scheduler ourselves. So we just knew that there had to be a better way. So we decided, yes, it's time to make a solution for this. Now, there were some, other, third-party schedulers in the market that had a sort of a bolt-on solution or an adapter for JD Edwards. But we also noticed over the years, we had several customers who would use these third-party enterprise schedulers for JD Edwards also come to us looking for a better solution or an alternative, primarily for some of these challenges that we've listed here. So, it's outside the JD user interface, so it is an additional piece of software, something new someone needs to learn. Typically, the third-party enterprise schedulers would be restricted to just the administrative group or the IT group. There wasn't an easy way to roll that out to, your business users, or at least some of your power users who could benefit from being able to manage some of the scheduling functions themselves. These solutions were often obviously very expensive, and they weren't purpose-built for JDE, so, as if you had enhancement requests that were specific to JDE, it was just going to be very hard to get them. And then lastly, they also came with an additional layer of software and infrastructure to be maintained. So with that, we come to, Smart Scheduler. To summarize, it's an advanced batch process scheduling tool that's been developed using the standard JDE toolset. The setup is easy and it needs very minimal knowledge to maintain, as it's delivered from the JDE. It's delivered from within JD Edwards, so you already know how to use it. There's nothing additional to set up in terms of application access, connectivity, those kind of things. And it's been built keeping in mind all the limitations of the standard JDE scheduler, but then we've also kept adding more and more features to bring it on par with what you'd expect from an enterprise scheduler. And then lastly, obviously, it is an Oracle-validated integration, and we've got OVI certification for 909192, and we keep up to date with the latest tools releases and updates from Oracle to make sure that our solution is compatible. So one question we get asked is, okay, what version of JDE do I need to be on to be able to use Smart Scheduler? The answer is any JDE version will work. There are certain features, of course, that are tied back to certain advanced features. All of the core scheduling capabilities will work across all releases. There are certain new features we've added over the years, for example, scheduling and orchestration, things like that, that are obviously dependent on the requisite system feature being available on your JDE toolset version. All right, so let's jump over and, like I said, typically when we do this a Smart Scheduler demo, we do about almost an hour plus just focused, dedicated on Smart Scheduler. So what I'm going to do today is condense that just a little bit, just so that we've got time to also go through the other solutions that we talked about. So everything inside Smart Scheduler is put inside a stream. It's a basic building block for anything inside Smart Scheduler, and you think of it as a collection of jobs and processes that are addressing a business process, and you want to schedule it, and you want to schedule it with dependencies. We're not talking about just scheduling individual jobs anymore. So think of a process, take a simple one, a pick slip followed by a ship confirmation followed by an invoice print. This is the process I want to schedule. I sequence these jobs with dependencies, meaning ship confirmation won't start until pick slip finishes, invoice print won't start until ship confirmation finishes. If there's an error along the way, it will stop. You can obviously set up things like notifications, corrective actions like rerunning or ignoring the error. All of that we'll see shortly. The schedule is set up at the actual stream level, so I have one schedule to maintain this process execution flow. I don't have individual schedules set up on each job like I would with the JDE scheduler. The dependencies don't have to only be linear in fashion like we just saw in the previous slide. We can also have what we call multi-dependencies, meaning you've got a bunch of jobs that are running in parallel, but another job that must wait for all of those to finish before it can start. So most common example, we have 5 sales updates running here, and we want the post job to wait for all of those 5 sales updates to finish, and the 5 sales updates themselves are running at the same time because they're going against mutually exclusive data sets. So to improve performance and improve efficiency, we're letting them run at the same time, but the post job will wait for all of those to finish before it can start. All right. So with that, let's jump right in and take a look at the product. All right, so I am logging in to my JD Edwards instance. And I'm launching my Smart Scheduler dashboard application. I've created a FastPath entry for it, but again, you could launch this from a menu or an E1 page, or just type in the application name in the FastPath. So this is my Smart Scheduler dashboard application, and this is from where I can control and manage all of my Smart Scheduler functions. We have a little summary dashboard here at the top that shows you, what's running, if there's anything in error, if there's anything on hold, so on and so forth. So quickly, two basic setup items. If you're scheduling jobs, we need to know what servers they're going to go to, along with some technical information about the servers. We need to also know what user IDs we want to submit the scheduled jobs with. So we set those up here in this user table. The passwords are encrypted and stored, so you can't see them even from the back end. And then when you're scheduling the jobs, you just need to pick the user from the list. So you don't need to key in the username and the password like you do with the JD scheduler. So let's jump into the Work with Streams application. So like I mentioned before, everything inside Smart Scheduler is set up inside a stream. It's what we call the basic building block for everything inside Smart Scheduler. Let's take an example. Actually, I'm going to go straight in to one of my favorite streams, the end-of-day processing stream. There's a bunch of information on the stream header. Obviously, things like the effective start date, end date, what user ID you want to use for all the jobs in the stream. You can see that you can still override this at the stream detail. The recurrence tab is defining what's the actual schedule, right? So when do you want this job to run? So right off the bat here, you can see we've got a ton of scheduling options available. So obviously, if you're using the JD scheduler today, you're going to see several options that aren't available with the JD scheduler available to you in Smart Scheduler. Some of the notable ones being the ability to run a job at a set frequency between a start time and an end time, which you cannot do in the JD scheduler. You can also do what we call multiple schedules, where you want a job to run multiple times a day, but it's at random times. It's not at set times that can be calculated as an every 1 hour or every 2 hour or every 30-minute frequency. It's just random times during the day. We also have the ability to tie into calendars in JD Edwards. There are calendars that are used in certain modules like shop floor management, or workday scheduling, so on and so forth. You can tie a Smart Scheduler stream schedule to also observe the holidays and workdays that are defined in a calendar that you're already using in JD Edwards for some other business process that essentially the stream is connected to that business process. You can also create your own calendar using the standard calendar application in JD Edwards if you had, a requirement to basically define your own holiday and workday pattern for something that wasn't already being used in JD Edwards. I'm going to jump on next and go into the stream detail. This is where we have the actual jobs that are running inside the stream. And here's where, so obviously you can see we've got a report name and a version name, so pretty straightforward in terms of how you define what job needs to run. You just key in your report name, obviously you can, go into the search and select, just like you would anywhere else in JD Edwards. If you didn't exactly know the report name you were looking for, you can, search like you would with wildcard for the description, so on and so forth. Everything's validated, so obviously if you key in an incorrect report name or incorrect version, that would error out on you over there. Moving over to the right, we also mentioned, we also mentioned the job queue and the execution server name. You can override the job queue. Obviously, it doesn't matter if something's already defined on a version, you can still override that. Over here, I mentioned the environment, and then as you can see, the username we've left blank because it's going to inherit that from the stream header. But at the same time, if you had a specific job where you wanted to override that, you could. All right, so now let's focus on the most, interesting part, or the core functionality here, which is the dependency mechanism. So if we focus on these two columns, the line number and the dependent flag sequence, we're going to understand and see how the dependencies are defined. So anywhere you see a 0, that means that there's no dependency for that particular line, except if you see it over here where it is a 0, but it's also highlighted in a different color. And we'll get to that in just a minute. So here we're saying line 5 doesn't have any dependencies. Line 10 has a dependency on line 5. So it's not going to, this job is not going to start until the previous one completes successfully with a done status. These jobs aren't being submitted into the queue in a wait status or anything like that you might be, doing to date to simulate dependencies in a single-threaded queue. So as you can see here, we're submitting everything to a multi-threaded queue because we don't need the queue to enforce the dependencies. Smart Scheduler will enforce the dependencies. So when we move on here, so what's happening here with this line? So this line has what we call multi-dependencies, meaning it's dependent on more than one job completing, and that's why we have a separate form in the row exit to define that, where I'm saying line 30 is dependent on line 10 and on line 20. So that's how you can define the multi-dependency. So as you can see here, this is not necessarily a complex stream, but it's a stream where we're trying to have different kind of scenarios. So we have a couple of jobs with single dependency, a multi-dependency, and then if you notice here, everything's dependent on line 50. So what that means is that from 55 through 90, these jobs are all going to be running at the same time, but we've got the job in line 100 here that has a multi-dependency. So it's dependent on all of these jobs completing before the sales update can start. It has to wait for all of these invoice prints to finish. So similarly, the post job has a multi-dependency on both the sales updates, so on and so forth. One thing that I did not explicitly mention during the introduction of Smart Scheduler was that Smart Scheduler does have the ability to also run a couple of different types of jobs outside of JD Edwards, and obviously the JD Edwards scheduler cannot. So today, the third-party jobs, if you will, that we support are we can run just about any executable / batch script on a Windows or a Linux platform. We can run database procedures on the SQL Server and Oracle databases. In addition to that, we can also kick off orchestrations from Smart Scheduler. It's not necessarily a third-party job, but it is outside the realm of traditional JD Edwards batch jobs. That obviously does require you to be on tools 923 and above to be able to run orchestrations from Smart Scheduler. So what I did here was I had a couple of these columns that, pertained to third-party jobs that I'd hidden just to optimize my screen real estate. So again, because this is a smart scheduler application, all the little tips and tricks you use today to optimize your user experience, whether it be grid formats, rearranging columns, setting up, advanced queries, changing your layouts, all of those automatically extend and apply to Smart Scheduler also because, as you can see, this is delivered from within the JDE user interface. So we've got an orchestration here that's dependent, that we have another post job that's dependent on this orchestration. And what we're doing in this scenario is we have an orchestration that goes and approves the batches because we've got batch security turned on, for example, in this instance with manager approval turned on, meaning, when the batch gets created by the sales update, for example, let's say it's in a pending status, so it needs to be approved and then posted. So this orchestration out here has been designed to go and find batches for a particular user ID, and then it's going to approve it, and then the post job can go ahead and post it. Similarly, we've got a SQL Server procedure being kicked off over here called nightly extract. So the scenario is that once all of my end-of-day processing finishes, then I'm going to kick off a SQL Server procedure that's going to extract all of my sales data and send it on over to my data warehouse that's going to be used for reporting the next day, for example. So, and then here we've got a bat file that's basically kicking off our smart build program, which is then going to go ahead and do any deployments for the night. So let's say this was the critical job stream that had to complete, after which we do deployment. So that's how we're kind of extending that automation right into smart build also, right? So let me hide that. All right, so we've looked at how to define the dependencies in a stream. We touched lightly upon the different scheduling options available. Like I said, we can spend a lot of time going into the detailed scheduling options. If there's a particular type of scheduling scenario that you're wondering about that we haven't covered, obviously feel free to put that in or send that in as a question to us, and we can go more into details about it. Now that we've seen all the the scheduling options, the dependencies, let's look at some of the more advanced features, which is how do we set up other things like dependencies, notifications, conditions, so on and so forth, which kind of brings us to what we call the events, actions, and conditions framework, where this is about introducing an element of programmability when it comes to scheduling jobs, where I'm going beyond just dependencies and I'm saying certain external conditions need to be met, or I want certain actions to happen when certain events occur during the life cycle of the job. So let's touch on it quickly. So for example, we've got conditions to say that I want a particular file to exist with certain parameters like the file size, the file location, and how long the file size is stable for before a job can start. We have notifications. So we also have this over here, which will tell us, which lines have events, which lines have conditions defined on them. So I'm going to go into events over here, and I can see I have a whole bunch of events defined, right from doing things with what we call smart scheduler variables, sending the UV output to an email, sending the CSV output, printing a job, just sending an email that the job failed. But then I also have things like resubmitting the job up to one time if the job fails conditionally. Both of these sorry, those aren't conditional. But you can also do, for an event and an action, you can also specify conditions. So, for example, in this one, I'm saying print the job to this printer, 1 copy, but only if the records processed is greater than 0. So if we have the ability to look at the execution detail in the audit tab, if you remember, there's a records processed field. So we can look at that and then conditionally execute events and actions based on the value of that field. We've set up templates here for you to quickly, set up an event and an action just by the click of a button. This is actually configurable, so you can configure, which are your most frequently used event actions from the template, and then set up those so that with a click of a button you can set it up. But there's also an advanced screen where you can upload from an Excel if you set up a whole bunch of events and actions, so on and so forth. All right, so let's see. So I'm just going to jump back into the slideshow for a minute to just kind of use the slide to kind of talk about all the other features, just in the interest of time, to not go through each one of those on the screen. So from a scheduling perspective, we obviously saw scheduling streams with job dependencies, both single and multi-dependencies. Data selection and processing option value overrides is something we can do. There are certain use cases for it, like being able to pass in dynamic dates, or the ability to change the data selection, basically use one version multiple times to run it for a different business unit, for example. That's a very common use case. We already talked about being able to run database procedures, operating system scripts. You can schedule in multiple time zones. We have a stream promotion utility available. As you saw, these stream setups can become quite complex depending on your requirement. So we have a utility that allows you to set it up in your lower environment, so your PY environment, for example, and then use this utility to kind of migrate that entire stream setup along with all the information, like the conditions, the actions, the email notifications, all of that information, and migrate it to a higher environment along with mappings for things like environment name, server name, so on and so forth, because a lot of times those things change between environments. There's something called on-demand execution, so you can submit a stream on demand also if you want. And then there's also the server and job queue load balancing. So there's the ability to load balance, and this is not dependent on the latest feature of virtual job queues and load balancing that JDE Edwards introduced with tools 9.5. This is the ability to run. We've had this out for a while. If you have more than one job server, a batch server, or even more than one job queue where you want to schedule the jobs and not hard code the job queue, Smart Scheduler has the ability to look and see which is the most optimal job server, batch server, or job queue to send the job to and send it over there. On the actions and conditions and all the things that you want to happen before or after a job runs, things like checking for a file, a variable value, emailing the job, resubmitting the job, error notifications, transfer, output, so on and so forth. So we kind of touched on this. I'm going to run through this. We talked about the job queue and load balancing. We actually already have the ability to call E1 orchestrations. We are working on some enhancements for the high availability architecture. We do have the ability to email work center messages already today. That's a useful feature. We do have what's called a user-submitted USJ add-on. Maybe I can just quickly jump in there. This is basically if we saw all those events and actions, and you want the output emailed and things like that. But that's all for jobs that are scheduled in Smart Scheduler. What if you wanted to do some of those things for user-submitted jobs? So we have a what we call the USJ module that can be added on with Smart Scheduler, which allows you to kind of define similar rules for user-submitted jobs. So you basically specify a username, a report version, or you can put effective dates, and if this particular configuration is active, and then you can say, when this particular user runs this report in this version, email the output to this, to this person or this group. Typically, sometimes you have users running a process, and once they finish, all they do is they take that output and then they distribute it to someone else, or they copy it somewhere else. And you can kind of define that to automate those steps and reduce the manual steps required by the user. Smart Build we're going to talk about, so we will address that there. I'm going to skip through all of these. What to expect when we install Smart Scheduler? That's a question that might be going on through your minds. You don't need a big bang approach. Smart Scheduler runs in parallel with the JDE Scheduler. It's not dependent on the JDE Scheduler in any way. So a lot of times customers will do a phased migration where they, design streams in Smart Scheduler, deactivate a bunch of jobs in JDE Scheduler, turn it on in Smart Scheduler, so on and so forth. I'm going to click through all of these. This is all available, information that's available on our website that you can request for easily. All right, we just take a quick look at the time. We've got about another 20 minutes of the scheduled time. All right. So we finished looking at Smart Scheduler. Now we've got a couple of more exciting solutions for you guys to see. The first one being the Server Manager mobile app. So I think this is very interesting, especially given the recent announcement from Oracle regarding their mobile application strategy, which is that they do not intend to deliver any more new mobile applications. There's a bunch of mobile applications that they delivered over the years, several, almost 80 to 100 of them, if I'm right. But what they've done now is they have provided us with all the frameworks required for developing your own mobile applications. Throughout the years, though, all of the mobile applications that were released over the years all were for business applications. There weren't any mobile applications that were released to address system administration use cases. So we realized that this would be a great use case and a great mobile app to deliver out there to the JDE community, which is a Server Manager mobile application. So this is going to basically empower administrators to manage their E1 instances on the go, help them be able to respond quicker to things and events that happen with your servers and take actions all right from the convenience of your mobile device. So I did want to try and demo this, but I've been having trouble screen sharing from my mobile device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try share screen just for a second. And we'll see if this works. Hopefully it does. The last couple of times. All right. So hopefully everyone can see that. So let me just go right from the beginning. So that's my Server Manager mobile app. We have a concept of profiles that you can save, so you don't have to like key in the username, the password, and your Server Manager URL. You obviously do need to have connectivity from your mobile device to your Server Manager, whether that's via VPN or because you have set up a reverse proxy or some sort of setup at the network level to be able to directly access your Server Manager from outside your network. That's typically uncommon. The most common one I've seen is you have VPN connectivity from your mobile device, and you're able to get to Server Manager, so then the app will also work. So you can see the various instances. I'm actually just going to switch the profile. So you can switch profiles from within the app itself. And that's just going to take a second to load, or I'm just going to log out and just go into the right profile. I think what's happening is that somebody's either working with one of those instances in the back, and that's why the other profile actually worked. So let's just go ahead and do that. So if you've got instances like in an undetermined status, but the agent is still up, then that can cause a problem for the app to load. But you can see the different instances. You can go into an instance and see more information about it, like how many users are there, how many database connections are active, what's the heap usage. I find this especially useful to be able to see, what my JVM heap looks like, and you can even take actions like clearing my heap usage by just running a garbage collection on it, and it's going to tell me, what the heap usage was before and what it is now, and we're going to see that percentage drop down. You can stop and start it. You can clear cache. So several other things you can do. So yeah, this was just, I just wanted to give everyone a quick, you can also look at, user sessions across. You can also filter. So for example, I've turned off certain instances that I did discover. I can turn some of those on. I can turn on additional servers, and then now you see I have more instances available, so you can essentially customize that. It's all saved to the profile. And if I now look at like a user session dashboard, for example, I'll see more information because in my profile I enabled more instances available. All right, so that was just to give you a quick look into the other product. Let me go back into screen share here. So this is available on the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store. Search for it as E1 Server Manager, and it should show up. The app is free for use right now. We will, introduce a subscription model. I believe it's as low as like $1.99 a month to use the more advanced features, like being able to take action, start, stop services, clear cache, basically interact with your Server Manager. The free version will just have the basic dashboard. But right now it's free with the full capabilities and no restrictions. So, do give it a try if you get the chance to. All right, so that brings us on to the next solution, which is the server's self-service password reset tool. So this is a very simple but powerful tool. Password resets typically end up accounting for almost 30% of all help desk tickets. This is a general industry statistic that's out there, and we've also experienced that more or less that being true in terms of the number of tickets that come in for password resets or user lockouts, so on and so forth. So this is a self-service password reset tool that's allowing a user to be able to reset their own password without involving IT and without involving the administrators, both to reset their password or to recover a forgotten user ID. And it's set up with 2 levels of security. You can get a one-time passcode via email or text message, and you will also have to answer security questions that the user set up beforehand. So let me quickly show you that. So typical situation, user comes in, they forgot their password, they're going to get an error. Now what we've done is we've customized the web page to put a forgot password link. You don't have to do that, as long as you publish it to your users that, hey, this is the URL you go to when you forget your JDE password. But if you want to customize this page, which we can help you do when we deploy the solution, is to be able to basically put that link in there. So I'm going to click on this, and this is going to bring me to the server's page. I know my user ID in this case, so I'm just going to say forgot password. And then it's going to say, how do you wish to reset your password? So let's say I say email. So it's basically going to send me an email. So we see that email just came in here. So it's given me a code. So I can input that. I say validate, it says verified, and now it's basically telling me go ahead and reset the password to whatever you want it to be. So it says password reset successful, go back to sign in page to log in and be awesome again. So I can come back here and key in my new password, and then I can go in. So there's obviously additional setup for this in terms of what the security questions were, so let me just go to the server's page. And again, just quickly talk about some basic setup that's available for this. So in the master setup, you can configure the email address. Let's see if we go in here, and I also got an alert saying it was successful in case somebody else was trying to reset the password for my user ID. So this whole email template is customizable right here. So you can, based on whatever language your organization needed to use, you can customize that. You can set up multiple templates even, and just one template can be active at a time. move to the security questions. You can populate the different questions and then mention how many of these questions, you can actually change these questions, right? So depending on what you wanted to do, we've kind of taken the most commonly used one across solutions, what we commonly see, and then you can also specify how many questions need to be answered. And then you can also do this thing of, two-step verification, where when you're trying to reset your password, it's going to, we have the choice to either get a code via email, text message, or answer the security question. And if you turn on two-step verification, it's going to require you do both, meaning you first are going to get a one-time passcode, and then you have to answer the security questions to kind of reduce the chance of someone being able to guess what the answer to your security question, or if your email or mobile device was compromised and they had access to the code, then they still have to also be able to answer the security questions. There's several great features in here. I'll touch upon the other one, which is an exclusion list, which is you might have system accounts like, let's say the JDE account, or a scheduler account that I don't want someone to be able to reset the password for, right? I don't want someone trying to reset my JDE password. So certain system accounts or admin accounts, you can put those in the exclusion list, and you won't be able to reset those. You can also exclude users by their address book search type. So, for example, here we've got EX, meaning ex-employee. So you say that if someone's tied to an address book search type of EX, then they are not allowed to reset their password because they were terminated from the organization, and you don't want them being able to get back into JDE, for example. The log management application is great. This shows you, detailed logging of, what happened, who tried to reset their password when they tried to do it. Something that's pretty cool is that we've obviously also tied it to, we track the source IP address from where the request came. So that way, you can check and see, from which part of the world that came, and we basically set up a cafe layout tied to a Google map where you can see that. Depending on where it was done from, sometimes obviously it's if the IP was blocked or something like that, then we're not going to see that. But for example, I can see when I did mine that yes, it traced it and said that this is where it was from. You can email yourself a report also. That's pretty cool. Whatever is the view over here, you can just say mail me, and then it will mail the current logged in user a report. That's pretty cool. All right, so that was with Cerberus. Hopefully that gave everyone a good idea about the solution. I'm going to move on. Obviously, if you have more questions about this particular solution, we can address that. This is a relatively new solution that we have called Smart Sense. It's all about visualizing and analyzing E1 logs. The idea is for you to be able to consolidate your E1 logs from various different types of servers, your enterprise servers, your JAS servers, consolidate all of them into one single location, and then be able to analyze the data across all these different sources. And you can also add in, your operating system logs, your database logs. And the idea is to be able to visualize and analyze. And if you're trying to look at trends and, when are the most errors happening, which user ID has the most errors against their name. Maybe there's a training issue. Maybe someone's using the application incorrectly. Or maybe you're just trying to troubleshoot an issue and you're looking for, you get informed by the user that yesterday at 10 a.m. when they tried entering an order, they got a web exception and it failed. And as an admin, it's brought to you a day later, and it's very difficult for you to comb through the logs from yesterday for a 10-minute time range across all your web instances and your enterprise servers, especially if you have a large E1 setup. That's a lot of different places to look for. What SmartSense does is it gives you the ability to, search for keywords or error messages, or just look at all entries for a particular time range, date and time range across the different log types. And then there's also great visualizations you can build using Kibana to visualize those log files. All right, moving on to Smart Build's package build automation. So as the name suggests, this is a solution that can help automate your entire package build process, right from the promotion to the assembly to the build and the deployment. You can configure rules based on your OMW project statuses to determine which projects get picked up. So the idea is that your developers and your users no longer have to keep sending emails to the CNCs to build the packages. They just leave things at the correct statuses. Smart Build will do the rest, and Smart Build will also send out email notifications with reports saying what was built, what was not built, if there were any errors. So as the admin, all we need to do is look at that output and make sure everything was good. If there's an exception or an error which would be mentioned in the notification, then we need to go in and take a look. Otherwise, we can be kind of hands-off from package builds. So, several detailed features obviously available that are listed here that I'm not going to go into right now. All right. So next we have AtomIQ. And there's two solutions from AtomIQ that we're going to talk about. So AtomIQ is our business process automation platform that we offer. And it's a solution that's, it can be used across any application, not just JD Edwards, but obviously, JD Edwards being a core area of our expertise, we've made some specific integrations that are focused on JD Edwards, but the idea is, and the great value is that it extends outside of JD Edwards. So it's built on the Alert, Analyze, Act framework, meaning you get alerted when certain data conditions happen. You can analyze those, visualize those, and then also act. But when it comes to act, you can also automate over there, meaning if you see a data condition and if you always want to take a particular action when this happens, then you can configure that to take that so that AtomIQ can take that action for you, and that's where the automation piece comes in. And then that obviously extends into being able to use chatbots to interact with the system and understand what's going on with your system. And then when it comes for the actual actions, we've got several adapters and ways of interacting with E1 and other systems. For E1 specifically, you can interact with E1 via orchestrations, business functions, batch jobs, just regular form service requests, REST APIs. You can just do a generic REST or SOAP API call into any system, any third-party system. You can interact with the database, OS scripts, and then also social platforms, like Twitter. There's also a Twilio integration built in that we haven't discussed here. And then you can schedule jobs or trigger things to happen based on date and time, which is your traditional scheduling. You can have things happen based on data monitoring, meaning when a data condition happens, you want a certain set of actions to happen. The trigger can be email and text message, meaning a user can send an email saying close this company 100, and AtomIQ can be configured to look for that particular email from this particular user for those keywords, and then it can execute a set of actions via orchestrations, for example, to go in and actually close a particular company, close a particular period, move it to the next period, and then also clear the cache in Server Manager, for example. So we looked at all of those, and then obviously, there's a general RPA adapter using Selenium. If there's, any process, it could even be outside of E1 where, let's say a step in your automation workflow was you wanted to log in to a third-party application, inquire on something, and then, interact with that system and do a particular transaction. So you can record all of that in using Selenium and execute that as a step in your workflow. The other thing that we have with AtomIQ is the ability to build mobile apps. So we deliver a mobile application framework with AtomIQ, and the idea is that you have a universal app that you can use to interact with any JDE application that you want. We provide basically a designer studio where you can pick and choose which JDE screen you wanted to interact with, which fields you wanted to use. We'll provide different templates. If a template didn't meet your need, it's easy for us to kind of customize a template to give you one for your need. But the idea is that we're not going to know every single mobile use case that a customer has. So the idea is to not build a purpose-built mobile app for each use case, but rather give you a framework that allows the customers to basically design the mobile app based on their use case, and then it's quick and easy to deploy. I believe we've got some webinars coming up that focus dedicatedly on this topic. So if this has interested you, definitely keep a lookout for that. All right, Chelsea, I think that was all of what I had. Sorry, I ran a couple of minutes over.
Thanks, Tonio. That was an awesome demo. I enjoyed seeing these solutions in action, so I hope everyone else did as well. I will jump back on video here, and briefly before we end the session, I am excited to share just a few of our latest resources. So first, there is still time to participate in the 2020 RPA survey and receive back benchmark insights into how other JDE customers are moving forward with RPA, areas where it might be most beneficial, and more. And our accompanying digital guide for the love of robotic process automation, which is designed to help organizations who are looking to initiate or accelerate their RPA roadmap. Another latest resource is the JDE E1 9.2 Capabilities White Paper, which has been recently updated to include the latest apps and tools 9.2.5 features that were just announced over the last month. So this outline document is designed to help you drive continuous innovation and explore all available tools, technologies, and features within 9.2. And an additional benefit is that once you request the white paper, I will automatically send an updated version every time JDE makes new product announcements. And just a few latest blogs, including In Focus, Recap, and Resources, tips and tricks for enhancing your home office experience, and the top 20 reasons to consider changing managed services providers. I think Tonio mentioned some of our upcoming webinars, but we do also have many on-demand webinars, including Orchestrator, BI Publisher, Fulfillment Management, Meet the Experts, and so much more. So as we end the demo today, we do have our contact information up here on the screen. Should you have any questions or wish to request a one-on-one demo or budgetary quote, I am more than happy to help. So I don't see any questions in the chat. So with that, I will end today's session. I want to thank again, Tonio, for the great demo, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thanks very much, Chelsea, and yeah, very well run. Tonio, thank you very much for some interesting insights and some new stuff that has been well welcomed. And I certainly want to take this recording and see if we can try and do this again early next year.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.